Jacob Boehme, the ancient alchemist, theologist, he said, "He who dies not before he dies is ruined when he dies." You must visit life and death together, and you must also bring the children into understanding and not morbidly, and then watch who this child is. Watch what they decide with their life. Because that child will either act hedonistically, as I said, or will cultivate this value of values. And those children are the ones who are the true indigos, or whatever you want to call it, who have the power to banish the devils from this earth. These are the philosophical certainties, and your child must be rooted in it, so that it's unwavered by the gales and storms and whatever it might meet when it has to deal then with the Umwelt and Mitwelt. These are the philosophical certainties. What are they? We did not create ourselves. We're not ready-made beings. We start as one thing and we'll develop into something else. We mature biologically and psychologically over time. We learn that we will be different as time passes. Right? The child hears parents speaking about, what life is going to be when they're older. So change is implicit. And then they learn more deeply that death terminates life. That time becomes more serious then, not frivolous. So the relationship with time has changed. That's what this virtue is part of. Your relationship with time has changed. You become serious. Not in a morbid way, but in that seriousness, the center of seriousness. You become open and aware of a lot of things that other people miss. You do notice the pavement under your feet at that time. You do now notice the handle of the door. You are aware of what things are doing when you walk in this state. But of course, we see time in negative terms as a certainty we have no power over. And we react in certain ways, and it's those reactions that are very, very important to watch. I emphasize that. Because this action of introducing into mortality and finitude, as morbid as it sounds in the beginning, initially, is what will happen to limit their evasion during their life. You want to shrink time down to limit evasion. In the early days, once this is inculcated and you don't turn the child away from the questions of death, they will not be as evasive. They will not be as shallow. They will deepen their awareness of the preciousness of life and make every minute count. And they will emphasize being as opposed to just doing. Not that doing is wrong, but the center of gravity, the vision will change. The doing and the being. Remember, deeds of doing are measured by the clock, just as we have to also do them in harmony with other people, and we justify our doing deeds. Basically, what you know as time is a measure of the doing. Being is an activity, if you even want to call it that is completely confined to the moment, to the present. It's not subject to past and future. It's right now. You have to be in this moment, and only in this moment. And therefore, that's another thing that's beyond time. Just as the physical body we analyzed logically is beyond time, subject-object is nucleated, right? Transcended. So, by the act of being, you also are transcending time. Because it is not of the past. You can't be yesterday and be tomorrow. You have to be now and be conscious of being so. In fact, even as children, time moves more slowly for us. We know that time changes based on moods. When you're happy or you're melancholic or depressed or reflective, jubilant, time seems to change, doesn't it? Oh, that was a really short weekend. Bloody, I wish it had gone on longer. So this is what the human being has as part of its consciousness is different than animals. Animals have no sense of mortality. They don't sit there wondering, oh my God, mortality, gee, what can I do about it? They don't know that they're going to age. They don't project desires into a future. They have no expectations of what's going to happen. They don't imagine what they're one day going to be. And also, they can't intensify by will their own existence. We can do all of those things. We have the imagination and the ability to modulate and change the very existence that we have. Not only is the child going to be in the center of the certainties, they will turn their whole thought, and then when you speak in Heidegger's terms, thought is so much different than what we think. He's talking about that totality. In fact, he even etymologically showed you that what he really means when he says thought is gratitude. That every thought is a perfume, a total fragrance of gratitude for the miracle of existence. Go deeper, deeper into mortality, deeper into aesthetics, until it's so rich that it's like molasses. It's like something immense. A great pearl of great price dug up from the bottom of the sewer where they threw it. That your very totality of consciousness becomes an act of gratitude, right? For its existence, the value of values. When that value is not, you can do it, as we said, as an adult, but once it's not in the child, they are going to be, you basically, ultimately, to be brutal about it, failed as a parent. Don't take it personally. Because it's an overthought, or it's an oversight. But you've now basically made more chances that that child is going to be buffeted and enter the world as an existentially vacant person. May not happen, but it also is more likely to happen. Because these are certainties. Man dies, being unto death. And therefore the child should be introduced to it as non-morbidly and non-obsessively and non-fearfully as early as possible in the most healthiest way. Because it's at that moment that that ancestral inner deepest voice of gratitude that is not happening, it's not activated in most of us, will be activated. And life will be completely then true life. It will be truly scintillating. What's the alternative? Evil has within it the seeds of its own destruction. That's the alternative. The false can't sustain itself. The false is terminal. And if you happen to be programmed by the false, thinking like the false, you're in danger. The global village is waiting for you to make you extinct. Yes, sir. Permission to live, permission to think, permission to exist. Illusion is ephemeral, law, inviolate, cannot be negotiated. So if your program, the Course in Miracles made it very clear, if your thinking is programmed by the unreal, it will pass away. Prahalaya. Crowley puts it this way: anyone who is forced from his own course, either through not understanding himself or through external imposition, comes into conflict with the order of the universe and suffers accordingly. Inviolate, cannot be argued around. Even when you have all the stimulation and pleasures, I'm going to do good life, I'm going to have a bit of fun. No. Nonsense. Nonsense. Inwardly, you are in knots. And when we don't have that certainty, when we're not coming from that place, when we are diverted from that course of action, we will suffer. We are going to be anxious. We will be on an endless quest and sullied by every encounter with these fates. And unfortunately, we also then inherit this to the newborn. We inherit, we bequest this to the ones who are to come after us. Fromm says that the fact that millions of people share the same vices does not make them virtues. And the fact that they share so many errors does not make those errors to be truths. And the fact that millions of people share the same forms of mental pathology doesn't make them sane. Even if they're all saying, "We're all one" t-shirts and living in the global village, singing their Pepsi song, "Come and dance with us." Right? We're in an unsane world to which we need psychic immunity. 70 summers is what most people will say. 70. 28,000 days is what we've got. So it's not about the days, is it then? Obviously, even the child will start, as I say, the child's action will start to work this out as it grows. So it's not really about the days then. I was kind of traumatized about that. That's kind of arises fear in me. I've had some sweaty nights thinking about it. But you know something, I realized something else. It's not really about the time, is it? It's about the quality, the way I live it. Yeah, it's just transcendent time right there. Didn't need the guru. No mushroom heads required. The value of value awakens. Osiris rises. The value of values can enter you at any time whenever you want to do the work. But no one but yourself can awaken it. The self can only act for and to itself. And also, ultimately, if you don't want to awaken it, that is perfectly fine too. The harmony of the universe still goes on. Life goes on regardless. And that is the certainty that a morally superior person also relies on. We've touched upon many things, certainties that a morally superior person knows, like evil having within it the seed of its own destruction and so on. But the morally superior person also knows if the rest of the world doesn't get it, and I don't necessarily want to run in their scaffolding when they're falling, because I might be preventing them from getting it by buffering them from falling. Maybe the fall is the thing that they need to have. We need to remember that for the times that are coming right now in our lives. But the man who's morally superior may also rely on that fact, that the false passes away, and it's okay to not have people awaken this, because that's where they are. That is their bliss at that moment in time, and it's all right. And he goes on the journey on his own path, because he's so involved in that and what it's doing to him. He's okay because he's touching that other noumena. He's aware that that is eternal. As we said, the eternal note, right? The eternal string, of which the other two are merely voices that can come and go. Schopenhauer talked about it. He understood this deeply. And he put it in a very, very succinct, simple language. He says, consciousness is certainly destroyed at death, as is the body, to be sure, but that which has been producing it is by no means destroyed. And the metaphor that I always use is about a match. He's saying that when you strike this match, which is the matter, think of the sulfur, the candle, the wax, or the match itself as the body, as this finite thing, right, being unto death. It can only burn a certain time. You strike it, and this amazing thing appears, this magical thing called light, the flame, this bioenergy appears. Where the hell did it come from? And then you say, well, the match is just burned down, but I can light another one. Then I can light another one, another one, another one. I can fill the whole planet with matchsticks. I can fill the whole universe with matchsticks. And what has happened? The flame that came on the first match is not even one single iota reduced. So in your way of seeing, are you going to be identifying with the matchstick or the flame? He's saying that the consciousness can be destroyed, this blip, this ripple in the water, right? But that's an illusion, because that which has been doing the work to bring it into existence is absolutely eternal. There is no death, except in the way that we've described. Another level of this, that the spirit of nature is eternal. And Blake called it the single vision. And we'll end today with this great man's words. But here we see another metaphor that I like to use. And that is that this process of coming to this state, call it moral superiority, call it the aesthetic ability, whatever you want to call it, it's the still point. For thousands of years, the Vedic Arya described the whole of the other conundrum, the whole other thing of life as a wheel, right? It's the national symbol of India. The wheel of samsara is often called. On a wheel, yeah, sure. The births, the lives, the deaths, whatever you want to call it, moves, spins, the chaos of the world, the chaos of the mid-welt and the mid-welt. But again, the good news is that the hub is still. So if you can find your way right into the center of that hub, you find the still point. But nobody can find it but yourself. And this reminds me of the journey of Amundsen, Roald Amundsen. When he finally did the immense journey and was the first man to arrive, where? At the middle of the South Pole. His colleagues wanted him to make a speech. And he stood there for a few minutes, and he said, you know, now that I'm here after this immense journey, unbelievable. It was a race with that psycho Scott. They finally get there, and he goes, I don't feel very big. In fact, I feel quite small, but not in a bad way. I feel humble. Very simple, very still. So all this running around trying to be a big shot on the red carpet and the big celeb and everything, the men who actually go there to that 0 degrees latitude, 0 degrees longitude of the physical continent, are in a state of what Heidegger called the care. A wordless place. Simple, straight, direct, wordless, but yet mighty in that simplicity, in that humility, in that limitation. Not the limitation of the man who goes down empty, fill me, but the man who has achieved great things. But that comes with his own humility. Look up at the immensity, this will come with the aesthetic sense right away when you look up at the majesty of what you have around you and you know you didn't create it. Well, that's what he was being imbued with, and it came to him, and he didn't have a speech. Well, there was a 0 degrees longitude and 0 degrees latitude of consciousness also. The fountain of Lamnet, the fountain at the center of it all. The 0 degrees latitude, 0 degrees longitude, the center of the wheel of Chirasi, and only you can find it. It's like the littleness that Heidegger talked about. It's completely different than the neurotic kind, because it's born from this aesthetic. You're little, but you know you're part of the greater. It's not the neurotic one where it's shivering under the staircase of the mansion thinking it's separate, I can't join in, everything's alienated. It's a littleness that suddenly realizes when you look at all of that immensity, and you do it through aesthetic eyes, that we did not create that. That means, by the way, we are guests in this house. And the Druidic teaching was, yes, you are, and your job in this life is to leave the house in a better place. then you found it. If you can, at least leave it in no worse a place. Because that's not being a very good house guest, and there may be a price to pay for that action. So as I said, we will conclude with the wise words of William Blake. When the doors of perception are cleansed, man sees things as they truly are, infinite. I hope we've done that today, and some clearing and cleansing and understanding, a kind of knowingness, an ability to perceive the infinite. And also that we are part of that infinite. Because here's the last thing to say. It's perception again. If you can perceive, right, if your way of vision is larger or narrower, doesn't matter which. And if your very perception can grasp the infinite, doesn't it mean that the perceiver is as infinite as the thing he's perceiving, and that is also nucleated? You are that infinity. I am that infinity. Open it, remember it, dialogue with it. Never let a single person make you doubt it. And as Heidegger said, make every thought you think an act of thank you, an act of gratitude. And I'll add mine at the end. Thank you all for being here and being with us tonight.
Thank you.